Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill was a book that I found to be extremely beneficial for my journey, alongside Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, which I'd like to include both of them in our conversation today. Outwitting the Devil helped bring awareness to the idea that I could have an internal conversation with certain subconscious fear, doubt, and indecision-based beliefs and release, as a result, my identification with them to allow myself to remain oriented to a consciously intended vision, which is discussed in Psycho-Cybernetics. Body then seems to move automatically without unnecessary resistance from the ideal self-suggestions, proving yet again that it's really what goes on inside of us, inside of our own minds, that matter. Now let's explore this quote here from Outwitting the Devil. He says, "I can best define the word drift by saying that people who think for themselves never drift. A drifter is one who permits himself to be influenced and controlled by circumstances outside of his own mind." So by the context of his definition, we want to think clearly and accurately as applicable without overthinking, a nice healthy ratio for ourselves, lest we allow ourselves to be swayed by past beliefs in relation to the circumstances. As identification to those beliefs are released, we no longer are at the whim of them. Circumstances only have meaning that we have given them by our beliefs, and these beliefs can maintain our flow, level up our flow, or break our flow. For example, in the entrepreneurial journey, one may encounter a circumstance that they could label as failure and dwell in it, breaking their flow. They can, in that moment, release the identification and think from certain experiences and recall certain experiences via self-talk in which they have experienced themselves successfully performing various initiatives, thus bringing themselves back into the flow. As stated by Psycho-Cybernetics, he says, "It doesn't matter how many times you have failed in the past. What matters is the successful attempt, which should be remembered, reinforced, and dwelt upon. Your built-in servo mechanism functions both as a guidance system to automatically steer you in the direction to achieve certain goals or make correct responses to environment. It can also give you needed answers and provide new ideas or inspirations." Now, if you're not familiar with what a servo mechanism is, in engineering, it is an automatic device that uses error sensing feedback to correct the action of the mechanism used, for example, in robotics. So to allow this to happen ideally without unnecessary resistance, accept that you are already your ideal now. You allow yourself to think for yourself and operate ideally from your vision. You have within you everything you require to realize your vision, and all of it is happening automatically from your vision by your servo mechanism. So again, thinking for ourselves, listening to and trusting ourselves, and accepting our own ideal self-suggestions so that we can allow our servo mechanism to work for us in the initiatives on the journey to realizing our vision, whatever they may be. So in Psycho-Cybernetics, he articulates a process which represents the journey, which I have noted here in 5 steps, from inception of a vision to the realization of it. So let's go through them and discuss them. Number 1, your built-in success mechanism is oriented to a goal, target, or vision. So this is where you commit, and by commit, I mean subconsciously commit. I am that person now. It's already done. Accept the self-suggestion in whatever way you'd like autosuggestion. This calibrates you over to your vision. Wherever you are now, the change has been initiated. You can feel it, and you are on your way to realizing your vision. So here's a key distinction. Like we always discuss, he says, this goal or target must be conceived of as already in existence now, either in actual or potential form. The way we emphasize in our conversations is that all things exist, and they exist inside of you now. You have everything required already inside you. You are complete inside, and whatever, if applicable, shows up automatically without forcing to lift a finger, allowing the inspiration to flow through you as body moves naturally and automatically from the vision to let it happen, while your world also rearranges behind the scenes to let your vision be so. Number 2, the automatic mechanism is teleological, that is, operates to end results, goals. There's no need to be discouraged if the means whereby may not be apparent. So if unnecessary suffering seems to show up in relation to where's the means, simply acknowledge that some way, somehow it's going to happen. As you have everything inside now and everything shows up, this allows the unnecessary suffering to dissolve, seeing through the illusions generated by those beliefs in mind of the world to further affirm the reality of your vision. Because as he says here, it is the function of the automatic mechanism to supply the means whereby, when you supply the goal. So everything is done for you. We release the need to control, commit to our initiatives in relation to our vision, whatever they may be, and we show up and enjoy them. Now, before and after my initiatives, I often like to speak with myself in a loving and encouraging way. I have a conversation with my higher self, and I discuss what I'm going to do with respect to seeming challenges I might have had, and I'm able to bring myself into an ideal state of mind prior to taking on the initiative. In the book, he gives some nice questions to ask ourselves to stimulate this ideal state of mind. So let's say I experienced some reactivity prior to my initiative in which my flow seemed to be broken. We acknowledge that it is not the circumstance, but the mental identification with the belief about the circumstance that was revealed for our benefit so we can bring it to peace. Here are some questions worth asking to bring us into our ideal state of mind. Sometimes only asking these questions without even answering them. Complete silence does it, like for example in experiences with a mentor. Other times you can engage in conversations with yourself, encouraging again, thinking for yourself as you cultivate your relationship with yourself to a higher degree. Number 1, could it be that I am mistaken in this belief? Number 2, why should I continue to act and feel as if this were true if there is no good reason to believe it? So this brings us to think and relate from our vision, as reality is what we're conscious of being now. As he says, think in terms of the end result, and the means whereby will often take care of themselves, because they do. Some way, somehow, you allow it to happen. So now we have number 3. Do not be afraid of making mistakes or of temporary failures. He says, all servo mechanisms achieve a goal by negative feedback or by going forward, making mistakes and immediately correcting course. So all of this happens automatically. We allow it to happen. If we make what we label as a mistake or negative, we can release any identification to that in the moment by mere lighthearted observation. And then the mind goes fluid and we know what comes next. Then any of those experiences become valuable and actually part of our story. I've been having a number of conversations about what it was like building my IT business, and all of those stories of seeming failures were actually helpful. It was also my identification with certain beliefs that created unnecessary suffering on the journey if it was experienced at times. So I'd like your journey to be even smoother by applying all of this, which releases identification to those unnecessary beliefs. This brings us to number 4. He says, skill learning of any kind is accomplished by trial and error, mentally correcting aim after an error until a successful motion, movement, or performance has been achieved. So again, in reference to Sunday's video, a perfect example is snowboarding. So I took it up in 2020. This is my 3rd season. Now, having made these videos and discussing this process over and over again in terms of skill cultivation and flow, I had the opportunity in 2020 to start off as a total beginner and apply all of what we discussed. And I'm happy to report that throughout the journey, there has been no comparison to others, perfectionism, or any other unnecessary suffering, because I put emphasis on flow, bliss, and enjoying the process of skill cultivation, knowing that some way, somehow, I'll get to a certain level of proficiency, so I might as well enjoy the journey. As so he says here, after that, further learning and continued success is accomplished by forgetting the past errors and remembering the successful response so that it can be imitated. So we don't dwell in past seeming mistakes or past seeming failures. We operate from our ideal now by mere acknowledgement that we already are our ideal now prior to an initiative and during as applicable, and everything will work out fine, thus facilitating letting it happen, which is a nice transition over to number 5. He says, you must learn how to trust your creative mechanism to do its work and not jam it by becoming too concerned or too anxious as to whether it will work or not, or by attempting to force it by too much conscious effort. So again, there's no need to lift a finger. This is a nuanced point. It is not to say you would not end up lifting a finger or to force yourself to not lift a finger. It is that the finger moves automatically, expressing flowingly your subconscious vision, which you've accepted as true. The needing part is not there. After all, what need would exist to force yourself to lift a finger when everything is done for you by the invisible hand? Body is an authentic expression of mind from your subconsciously accepted vision and related beliefs in which you observe, deeply integrated. One with the experience, everything happens naturally for you to bring forth your vision in a blissful, flowing way, as he says, in an ever so nuanced way. You must let it happen rather than make it happen. So I trust you found this video to be complementary to your flow. Let's go ahead and conclude today's conversation with an autosuggestion to further encourage. You could say, I think feelingly for myself, from my vision, which all in harmony and in contribution to my vision automatically show up from my inner commitment to my vision in an effortless, flow-based way. I do what I love, I live what I love, as others show up inspired to reflect the same as an authentic expression of my self-acceptance as I already am, my ideal now. From this premise, hunches and inspiration show up as speech and body flows automatically from these ideal attributes to reflect as ideal creative expressions, entrepreneurial innovations, and effortless, flow-based being now. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk with you soon. Take care.